Well, I mean, this, of course, is all to do with why I joined politics in the first place. I mean, I was sitting in a bar in just off Old Broad Street in the city in 1990 when it was announced that Britain had joined the exchange rate mechanism. That was a Conservative government. When I read my papers the next morning, I found that Labour and the Lib Dems supported it too. That's what got me into politics, the fact that the entire political class were now agreeing on a whole host of things. That was 20 years ago. Now we've got 3 social democrat parties. I mean, I've been saying it for years, but I mean it. You can't put a cigarette paper between them on most issues of policy or even conscience. So we have a political class, and there is a massive disconnect. But not just on this question. It's not just on Europe that there is a massive disconnect. It's there on a whole host of other issues too. So yeah, we have to break down the system, and obviously, if electoral reform is one of the ways of doing it. Another way of doing it, of course, is that UKIP becomes so big and becomes such a threat that they're forced into giving us a referendum on this. I think we maybe need to be a little bit clearer about this. We need to be a little bit clearer that the free trade alternative is there, it's on offer. I remember with Kinnock shouting at me on the Today programme in 2001, John Humphrey said, "Now come on, Commissioner Kinnock, if Britain left, would there be a free trade deal?" Of course, yes, he said. So we need to emphasise that we're not losing anything. So we need to emphasise that the alternatives are the trade deal with Europe, but the other thing we've got to do, I think we've not quite succeeded yet, is to explain that in a global economy, we're actually hampered by the common commercial policy or trade policy, and that it would open up so many other fresh opportunities around the world. So again, it's there, it's in our manifesto, but I don't think the general public yet really have quite understood this kind of positive global future that UKIP sees. Well, that's difficult to answer, because what is there that isn't in some way related to the EU? I mean, what is there? There's virtually nothing, is there now? I mean, this government's even accepted foreign policy. We've even accepted enhanced cooperation militarily with the French. I mean, what is there that we can discuss? No, I think the fundamental questions of border controls, of migration, of the balance of society, I think that has to be very near the top of our agenda. And then I think the whole question of the size of the state. Now that, of course, breaks down into a whole host of complex issues, but I mean, tax, clearly benefits. I mean, if George Osborne does what he said on the news this morning, I'll be thrilled, but I believe it when I see it. So the whole question of the size of the state, and so that operates at a macro level in terms of how much does government do and how much of our income does it take, but it also operates at a micro level of shouldn't your local pub have the right to have a smoking room at the back? If that's what you choose to do and choose to want to do. So for me, the big one, without being specific, but the big general philosophy is that government is too big. Of course it does. Of course it does. And I think the UK constitutional arrangement at the moment is a bit of a mess. I don't think it was very clearly thought through. And I have deep sympathy with the view that the English are getting a rotten deal. I have deep sympathy with that. I do not want to see extreme English nationalism, but I do think there is a genuine desire for Englishness that is out there. And I'm very much in favour of a federal UK. Very much in favour of it. I think it works on every level. If Scotland, England and Wales have their own ability to run their own things, and then we do things at a national government level, rather like America does. I think that is the long-term solution, and I'm very much in favour of it. And yes, I would like to see, an English Parliament sitting in Westminster for a certain number of days every month, dealing with English-only issues. And I think the way that we try and sort of pour scorn on Englishness is why we've got this rebellion. And it's a very English rebellion, but, on St George's Day now, you see the flag everywhere. Well, 20 years ago, you didn't. So there is something going on there, and I feel a part of that. And I have a feeling that we can get to a situation where the English, Welsh and Scots and Northern Irish all get on really rather better, perhaps, than we are at the moment. Funny Funny enough, I was chatting with a policeman coming off the train this morning about CCTV cameras because he collared me. I think, well, look, we're headed rapidly in the wrong direction. Is it a police state yet? That depends how you define a police state. We're probably not there yet. And I think if I stood up on a question, I tell you what, it'd be very interesting to get the response from the other candidates. Possibly one or two of the others will say, yes, it is. But I promise you that if you stood up on question time and said this country is a police state, you would earn nothing but derision for yourself and UKIP, because the public aren't yet prepared to accept that we might have got there. I don't think we are quite there yet. But I think we have a very important job. Look, we are the only party, consistently from 2001, that fought against the European arrest warrant. What a superb example that is of how the basic principles of the presumption of innocence before guilt, of habeas corpus, of how all those things are effectively being overturned. I think this whole area of justice and home affairs and the concept of freedom and liberty, that's something that is key for UKIP, but we have to be careful in our choice of language. Well, I think that's right, and I think, you know, the principles of common law are something that people on the street understand without knowing they understand it, because it's a cultural thing. It's what they've been brought up with. And when you introduce, I mean, the way the Greeks and the Spaniards, I mean, you know, to think that we can be extradited to countries like that, not to mention. But you see, the point is, America, we can renegotiate the treaty. What did Clegg say in PMQs? We're going to review the European arrest warrant. So what are you going to do, old son? Walk into a room with 26 other countries and say, excuse me, we'd like this on the agenda, to be told either it's not on the agenda, or even if it is, no one wants to discuss it. I mean, it gets to the heart of whether we're able, you know, to forge our own laws and to run our own affairs. So I think, yeah, justice and home affairs will be, I think, has to be a very big issue for us. And I particularly, you know, compliment William Dartmouth for going over to Hungary and getting those lads back. Brilliant. That's the sort of thing UKIP MEPs should be doing. I want them to know that I am coming back into this to give political leadership. I will not be bogged down. I have got, when I announce who the new chief executive is, who the new party secretary is, who the head of youth development is, you will see people with proven experience in those fields. Not enthusiastic amateurs that want to help, but people who have actually delivered. And what we will do is we will take this party forward, we will adopt professional sales and marketing techniques, this party will grow, we'll start winning council seats and we'll really take it somewhere. And I'm speaking about all these things with a great deal more confidence than I was 4 years ago. When I took it over 4 years ago, I was deeply intimidated by what I faced. I think we now have an amazing opportunity. There is a vacuum out there. You know, we know that Labour have betrayed patriotic old Labour. We know that the Lib Dems are gradually being sussed out. And if you're one of the millions of Eurosceptic Conservatives out there, you no longer have a party to vote for. So there are some big opportunities, and I think I can really take this forward. Delicious. Yeah, absolutely delicious. Well, it's what Jimmy Goldsmith said, wasn't it? The last decent bloke to enter Parliament was Guy Fawkes. Yeah, I think it's wonderful, and I think it's very important that we announce the result in a suitable venue. To find out more about who we are and what we stand for, go to the UK Independence Party website at www.ukip.org.